Computer. Hey everybody, so beautiful to be back and back with Z and back connected into this beautiful energies that we created. I hope you guys are resonating with our non-structured structure, because we kind of just go with the flow. I love that. Yeah, I really love working with Z. How have you been? How's things? What's going on in your little world? Well, little world, big world.
Little big playing. It's been really good. It's been a facet of me understanding my own process and my perception versus others' perception. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me, and not taking anybody else's perception. Being like, okay, that's cool. And also, where do I fit in this? And also, I don't work with any of those parameters. So what does that actually mean for me? That's where I've been at.
Ooh, what does that actually mean for me? I think that's like a first little golden nugget, and we're about 3 seconds in. So that's like a new record. But I really think it is like, what does that mean to me? I think that's something we should all be asking at this time. Like this, there's no doubt. Let's cut the bullshit to everybody. It's a difficult time at the moment. It's a beautiful time, but it's an emotional time. It's a sensory overloading time. It's unraveling of layers, separation of connections, and severing of cords and releasing of wounds. And it is a weird emotional processing journey that we're on right now. And I definitely feel we're in a bit of a shadow chapter, as we've spoken about, and this is the part of the spiritual process, spiritual awakening, connection to source, whatever you want to call it, this is the part where we do face obstacles. The dark night of the soul is repeating itself in some facets. And I suppose it creates a lot of questions. It creates a lot of questions for me sometimes when I'm in that deep, dark night. I'm like, why am I still here after 10, 12 years of doing this work? I mean, I'm sure some people it's like 30, 40, 50 years, so I get it. But, I'm like, I don't understand, why am I still in this similar layer, sometimes when it's like a familiar layer. But the recognition I get when I'm out of that shadow chapter or that shadow intense period is it's just a deeper layer of the onion. And that's always what I like to refer it as. The deeper we go, the more it makes you cry, the more emotional it is. But also the more used to you are through cutting through them layers and releasing them layers, because you've done it before. And so, yes, the deeper we get, it's more painful sometimes to release, but it's also in some ways easier to do in the human, because we are used to this process and we are familiar with this experience, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of add on to what you said, Desi, because I think it was really important. Like, what does this mean to me? What's coming up for you right now, in everybody else's life? Like, we've all got something going on, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is that we've got going on, there is something. And so it's about asking, what does this mean to me? What is my body communicating? What is my soul trying to tell me? What's my higher self trying to tell me? What messages are coming through to me, and how can I actually unpick these things and unravel the details about them?
Right. And it is a deep process. It is one of those, at least for me, where I'm taking a step in one moment and going, oh, look at that layer, that imprint. Is that really mine? Do I want to keep it? How do I want to perceive it? And what is my true nature in that? And a lot of times it's like weeding that out and going, yeah, absolutely not. That is not a game I want to play anymore. And that's not how I perceive it.
Yeah, so true. And it is really, as sometimes we say these things and it's like it's just a choice, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And I get that, because I've experienced that myself, when you don't feel like you can make that choice and it's just so easy. But really, it truly is like, do I want to keep bringing this pattern, this behavior, allowing this behavior, putting myself in these situations, being around these certain people, being in this experience that's creating this emotion? Like, we always have a choice. And now, granted, I understand sometimes it might feel like we do, financially or commitment wise, responsibilities. I understand that. But there is always a choice to at least navigate it in a more joyful way, a more present way, a more connected way, And again, I learn a lot of my journeys through motherhood now, instead of through big, grand spiritual awakening things. It's more through small journeys of motherhood. And I do realize like the layers that we go through, even just in the mundane, and then also the choices. Like, I'm sensory overloaded, I'm triggered right now, I can feel my old patterns of emotional overload and wanting to get tetchy and, not wanting to get angry, but releasing it in that angry way. And I can feel that boiling. And so then I have a choice in that moment. Do I want to continuously choose to consciously create this cycle and bring this in front of my children, which is then repeating the cycle? Or do I want to choose to go, right, everybody, let's get in the car, even if we're half dressed, we get in the car and we're going to go up to your granddad's and we're going to figure shit out there. And then that's what I do. So instead of getting overwhelmed, I make a choice. Like, my inner control freak is like, no, we need to get them dressed properly, get the bags packed, sort out the house, to have everything done. And I'm like, no, I'm not regulated in a place to do that. So I'm choosing to make an executive decision that's breaking that cycle. It's breaking multiple cycles of having to be a certain way, having to show up a certain way, having to look a certain way, having the house a certain way, and then also dealing with the stress a certain way. And so all of them little choices that you have, they are my teaching moments. They are my soul expansion moments. Is simply getting in the car with 2 children. Sometimes, it's a big, I learn a lot from the mundane things. That's what I'm trying to explain, that we can learn still from the human experiences deeply.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, I've chosen to take it simpler. I don't need a big experience. I don't need all these facets. I don't need to have visions, because I'm living it in my reality right now. So sometimes that's just, instead of what I would have done before, I'm going to sit here and like paint or a squiggly line on a paper, and that's going to be my choice instead. Right. And it can be easy. And I think we've obviously been trained, and the control process, which I feel like we're all moving its way through, like how we've controlled the situation, how we control ourselves, what that's looked like, and everything through society and the collective, into going, hey, I want to take this simpler route here. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was like, oof, my body was like, that means either like I'm unsuccessful or blah, 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 all these old constructs that would have popped up to need to work in order to get to a point, right?
Yeah.
And so that for me, like I've stopped that whole process. If it's not like an easier route for me, I'm not saying I don't go through my stuff, because I do. I choose that instead. Even if that's like, I'm going to jump up and jump it down for a few minutes and stop that pattern, because I don't want to be there.
Exactly that. And I love the way you put that, like, we all translate it differently, and that's exactly the same thing in a slightly different translation, which helps other people understand it too, because there is so many different little layers of choice, and like you say, ways that we can navigate in just an easier way, which just kind of bring us on to what we wanted to talk about today a little bit, and the whole overall topic that we mentioned in last week's video that we wanted to touch on today, because I've been in this world since I was about 17, and I'm 28 now, so 11 years. And as much as, I am quite young, I have seen a lot of growth and change and different things in this industry. And, the merge, whatever the word is, the rise of TikTok and how that's affected the spirit. Yeah, I'm like, what's the right word? I don't know. The integration of that and the social media aspect to the spirituality aspect, that's definitely been like a new thing. And I suppose the way I kind of translated it over the years is I don't necessarily resonate with the religious terminology. So what I would call source energy, some might call God. What I would call divinity, higher realms, higher self, some may be referring to as Christ. And now this is where I've had to kind of decipher, because for a long time, Jesus Christ energy for me is like deeply associated with religion. So I've had kind of I don't know what the right word is, more of a non-resonance towards that energy, towards that kind of terminology and connection. And then recently, over the past year or so, I've definitely noticed like the rise of people in the community connecting with Jesus Christ's consciousness energy. And obviously I've worked with clearing lower frequencies, as do you, Z, and I've worked in my earth angel self, and I understand the power that we have to give lower vibrational beings a choice to remove themselves from this earth plane. So I lived very much a long time being attacked by darkness. And then when we all connected in Morocco, myself, Honey, and Abby, and lots of other light workers, I gained the insight of how I do that. And since then, I haven't experienced the attacks like I used to. And when I was mentioning this, I was having a conversation with a lovely lady, and she mentioned that she experienced the same thing, but through Jesus Christ. So she used to get attacked all the time. And then by renouncing the lower vibrational spirits in the name of Jesus Christ consciousness, that she no longer got attacked anymore, and she no longer experienced that like constant darkness. And so this got me thinking, you know, and not just that, there's so many people I've seen that there's like multiple connections here, like branches to it. You know, there's people that resonate with the same version of spirituality but just use religious terminology like God and source and Jesus Christ. And then there's people that I know that are like heavily indoctrinated in religion, which again, it's their own choice, but non-resonance for me, and that believe what I do is completely like satanic, and that I'm not going to heaven because I'm not conforming to their views. And then there's people kind of in the middle. And then, you know, I kind of had to sit with it. And then I've seen people that have been deeply spiritual that have now gone into religion and renounced all of spirituality and said it's completely satanic in itself. And so I had to be forced to look at it, and I question everything. I think if something's being presented to you, you should question it, you know. And so I sat with this concept of like Jesus Christ and Christ consciousness, and what does that mean to me? Now, I would invite a lot of people watching this, ask yourself that question, like even right now, just ask that question, like what does Christ consciousness energy mean to you? What does divinity, Christ energy, higher, you know, that core energy in itself, what does that mean to you? And ask on that and come back to the video, because deeply, like I've learned that integration between religion and Jesus Christ is not the same thing. Like they don't need to be deeply integrated. Christ in himself, in his human form, in my opinion, was a human that came to show us. Shutting the window, but that looks weird because it's invisible. It was a human that came to show us our powers. Like we come from source, we come from God's energy, so we're a fractal. That's not a one-way street. We have the same connection to that as the source energy has to us, so we can receive things as well as give information and energy. And so I believe that Christ came to show us the power of ourselves whilst being connected to source energy, and the power of what we are capable of in human form, rather than it only being people like Christ or God that are capable of them things, because again, that's the pedestal dynamic that I don't resonate with. Yeah. So we could go, you know, all day about this, but I suppose the main concept I wanted to touch into is letting you guys know a bit about my understanding, how I translate it. And also why this is being brought up, because if so many people around me that used to be deeply connected with spirituality, also connected with me, and now renouncing that as satanic and like really going against it, I had to look at that and think, okay, why? You know, why is this going on? Why do people have these views? And why is there so many people opening up to Christ? Not that that's a bad thing, it's a good thing, but why in a certain way of this human translation, which involves sometimes judging and shaming others for the way that they connect? So I wanted to kind of just put that out there and see what you think, and just dive into that a little bit and just explore that topic.
Honestly, I'm so excited to have this topic come to the light. When I was resonating with you the last few days, I was like, I saw this point and I'm like, I want this on the table for my own myself, and just to get a sense of it. Now, for me, I don't consider myself spiritual, religious. I don't work with the Christ aspect, because for me, it's been a labeled perspective that doesn't resonate with me either. Either does spirituality, to be honest with you, because it's been a perspective that's been, from my perspective, skewed.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that. It's just hard to find a human. Like I was asked that the other day. I was asked, do you class would you say you're a New Age spiritualist? And I was like, well, definitely not New Age spiritualist. I said, this shit's ancient. I was like, but if you had to put me in any category, I suppose, spirituality would be one, because I started as a tarot card reader, as a medium, as a channeler. My introduction into ascension and like reconnection to myself was through spirituality. So my personal category probably would be that, but I don't like the label. So I totally agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah. It's one of those where I'm asking, and you're just asking too, everybody in here to sit and see what actually resonates with you and what doesn't. What feels good to your body, what doesn't, and what maybe constructs are in there that you can take a look at where does that feel limiting to you, or does that feel like your most expansive self? And that's how I kind of work with myself. And for me, I don't want to be in any of those labels or resonances. I know myself and my connection to the universe, and that's what I call it. This is my connection to the universe, right? Light. I'll use light. But it's really deep, because as soon as you're classified in like spiritual or use Christ consciousness, I mean, for me, this has been brought up even just recently, where it's like, oh my gosh, you're in a cult or you're working with satanics and all this stuff flies up. And for me, yes, did I take a look at it? Sure, I did. I sat with it for a second. I said, you know what? But that's a perspective that's yours. That doesn't resonate with me at all, because I'm not in that facet of it.
Yeah.
You know,
So true.
With spirituality, and it's like, you're a cult leader. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
I've had that one too.
You know, if you want to, you know, use your energy to be shaming people, which is really what that is, guilting people
100%.
their own connection. And really, honestly, what this was, what I found within myself is, the more that I step up into myself and in my biggest self, I've gotten that inflection. I'm like, that's because I'm actually stepping up into myself and I'm owning myself. And the light of that moving through it just brings up perspectives that I see running through there. And I'm like, oh, look, that's a shame piece. And guess what? I'm not doing that to myself anymore. Right? Yeah. I'm not going to classify myself in that. So like, that's okay. That's your perspective. It's not mine.
So true. So true. And it is the shame that's the issue, isn't it? You know, because I literally remember suggesting someone to do a yoga because they had back pain and being called satanic for doing that. And, you know, I brought it up to someone recently and they was like, yeah, I get that, though. I get why people thought that. And I'm like, honestly, please enlighten me. Like, I understand for certain people that are heavily committed to a different version of God, that's probably where it gets like, it's like political, isn't it? That'd be like being on the left and then voting for right, because it's so I get how they view that. But for me, that doesn't identify to any specific human translation of this. Like, listen, as long as I'm not working with that shit, as long as we're not doing any bad juju, as long as we're not harming anyone, as long as my intention is always of the purest high heart frequency, I personally don't see the need for these rules and restrictions and, you know, human translation, because that's what that is. It's a human translation of energy, and we all can translate energy in its own way. And if we are choosing to act in a highest intention of self and others, then I really don't believe there is anything wrong with that. And I don't believe that could ever be interpreted as satanic, because if you are only doing something with positive and high at heart intention, how on any plane of earth or any dimension could that be translated as a lower frequency, especially one as such as the, you know, that word that I probably won't keep saying because the video might get banned. So I'm gonna watch my words. But yeah, so yeah, I think it is a real thing. I think it is a deep thing, a real thing, that this inversion, right? It's like, and also like you say, the shame. How can you be someone that's in this connection to Christ and God and all this, but then be so adamant that somebody else hasn't got that because they don't translate it in your way? To me, that seems very egotistical.
Yeah, oh, totally. It really does. And, you know, again, I'm going to respect everybody and their belief systems and where they're at. And also, like, that's not the game that I play. And I always say, okay, is there something there for me? And I do recommend everybody, like, go through there. Is there something in your body that's triggering as we're watching, as you're watching this, as you're feeling into it? Because that is something to take a look at. For me, looking at that space and going, hey, where's my heart right here with this? Because I wouldn't play that. I would want everybody to be in their own connection with themselves. And if that is where they're at, that's fantastic. And it's a feeling for me. And you can tell when the ego flares its way up, because it's a waste of energy, and it's like and then it dies down.
Yeah,
you're
100%. Not a true spark. That's the thing. Like you say, I deeply respect, and I have friends that connect with God frequency. And so I don't have like any judgment or shame on how other people choose to connect to source energy or their way of interpreting it. I have total deep respect for that. My issue, I suppose, is the same thing with like this woke agenda. I don't have any issues with people doing exactly what they want to do in their own time, in their own place, with their own bodies. I really don't care. It's more when the agenda is being pushed upon other people and being forced upon other people out of fear and conformity. That's my issue. And with a lot of the time with religion, it is the case, in my opinion, is that these things are forced upon people based upon fear and conformity. And that's the problem is if you are choosing to do things because you are choosing to do it, because it is a joyful thing, because it brings you love to help other people, to help spark connection to others and help lead them back to their path of love and connection to themselves, then that is in itself doing the work of Jesus, doing the work of Christ, doing the work of God, just in a different human word. And it's like, I struggle to understand it. I suppose that's maybe my qualm, is because if for whatever word you want to use for our beliefs and our connections, can have deep respect and love for anybody else translating it in the way they do, but recognize it's the same, I struggle to understand why religious facets can't do that, why there has to be only that one and that only way down to the exact word, even though them words are translated by another human. That's what really gets me. God didn't write them scriptures with a pen himself. It was through a Messiah in this human form, which has their own human brain, which is open to human interpretation, and that's channeling, which is then called satanic. And I'm just very confused at where the authority comes from. Like that's maybe my issue. Like, where is the right to tell someone else they're wrong when that's their truth? Right.
And I come back from a space of anything that anybody says is from their own projection, perspective, their own point of view. Even us guys, and you can question us all day long. Please do. Yeah. Find your truth in it. It's your truth that matters in it. So even to say the Bible was channeled through a Messiah or whatever it is, would be its own view perspective. So again, like for me, everything is a construct here. It's a perspective. So what do you want to believe? Everything to the very beginning of our humanity is a created aspect. We create it all.
Exactly.
So, to put it in a box, and that's how I feel about it when people flare up and they say things. I'm like, so you're putting me in a box because of your own point of view, because you're speaking out your own point of view on it. So in the end, like, I want to be outside the box, and I'm gonna pop that for myself every 5 seconds. I don't want to be placed in any type of spirituality, any religious facet. Though when I work with clients and people, I'm excited that they believe that, because they do. That's for them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good thing, and it's leading a lot of people back to truth, which is what we mentioned at the beginning. Like, it's a good thing that people are going to Christ because they're coming away from addictions and ego behavior and materialism and validation of others, and they're finding self-love and self-worth. But I suppose, I've got two things. I've got my brain's going, but there's the one thing I wanted to say about the point earlier is, like, there is always going to be, everything can have bad intention. So a meditation could be used for energy harvesting. A mass prayer could be used for energy harvesting in church. So Bible scripture could be used in a negative intention towards someone, just like affirmations and, spells to other people could be used in a low frequency. Everything, even opening up a deck of tarot cards, is potentially opening up a portal. But that's why I believe that everyone should have the knowings from a child of spiritual protection, of grounding, of clearing, of our connection to source, of our connection to divinity, and our abilities as beings in this human body. Because like we've said, we've worked on clearing the lower vibrations from this plane. I've worked with spirits for a long time and deciphering frequencies and knowing which is a higher one and which is not, and recognizing that. But I am aware that on a human level, there is many people that are not doing that. There is many people on TikTok opening portals, being gateways for energy, bringing in low frequency demons, entity attachments. Like, that shit is real for sure. And for a long time, I wouldn't participate in energy group mass meditations because I found them too risky for energy attachments, entity attachments, because no one was protecting themselves. And there was too much shit going on. So I was like, no, thank you. So, we're not blind to the fact that even what I would resonate with, where I came from in my spiritual career, is still could be used with negative intention. It's not the holy grail of itself, but I believe that about all aspects. I believe everything is about intention. Christmas Day is about intention. Halloween, for example, is about intention. All of these, like, in events and human experiences and human translations, are all about our intentional frequency. And I think if we learn how to recognize our own frequency and other people's frequencies, that would be more telling than people's words and people's choices of views and religion and blah blah blah. Because I know a lot of heavily religious people that are not nice people, that are not acting in the way of source and light and Jesus Christ energy. You know, they've actually in some ways put me off more going towards that, because I find they're preaching false because they're not acting in their truth. And so that again is not the word of Christ, because you meant to bring people in, not put them away. And so it's everything could be negative interpretation. Any religion, any facet, including spirituality, can be a gateway, a portal opening, a risky, dangerous potential thing. But that's why education is key, you know?
Totally. I mean, people watching this might even view it that way, you know, and that's totally okay. And I've seen a lot of this too, which is why I was out of social media. I didn't do online marketing, anything like that until just barely even a few months ago this year, where I was like, okay, is this something that I want to do? And really it was like, can I embody myself in what I'm actually going to put out there before I do it? And does it feel like it's exciting and fun? Okay, that was the thing that I want to do with that. Because if I'm in excitement and joy and fun for myself, then I'm working out of my heart. I'm working out of my inner child. Because hey, like I'm speaking to myself when I'm doing it, you know? Like I don't really care about what else is going on in there. And that's why I did that. But prior to that, I was like, heck no. And I've been doing this for a heck of a long time. Ever since I was little, all the way through. And I've watched all the phases and I've watched all the things, and I'm like, I'm not even gonna put anything out there, open up. Because any of those spaces open up and I see it, you know, and it is all about intention. And however you guys view it is on you, whatever you guys want to perceive this as. You know, for me, if I'm watching something, it's like, I'm going to settle into my body and my own frequency. I'm not going to say anything about it. How am I resonating with this? Because if it's a yes, then that's a clear spark for me. It's exciting. Like it keeps going. I can get ideas off of it. I can go create with it. You know, if it's not, and it's hitting something that's lower for me, it's immediate feeling and like it dies really fast. And I'm like, that's not for me. So I'm going to immediately pull out of that.
I get that. I totally get that. Yeah. And it is important that we're honoring that. And it is important that we're like listening to them, like we said last week, honoring the body and listening to the body when it's showing you what's resonant and what's not, you know. Like I remember being sat in a church, I was baptized, my great nana is Roman Catholic, Irish Catholic, and there's 24 of them Irish siblings. So there was like deeply Irish Catholics, but my parents were not religious, but I was still like just, what's the word, like, you know, like routinely baptized. And I went to church on the odd occasion growing up, and I remember being sat in there one time listening to mass and looking around thinking, why does this not feel right to me? You know, like it felt cold, it felt unwelcoming, it felt like the words were noise, and I just didn't feel resonant towards it, you know. And I'm not saying there might not be. I actually quite like going in churches now. I actually quite like looking at the history of the buildings, beautiful. But I really like the energy. But I don't know, at that time, I remember feeling like, why don't I feel any connection here? Like other people said they did, you know. And I remember then falling into spirituality after doing a criminology degree. And again, it was just the answers I found through spirituality for me. And like you say, the faces that came up. You know, I started as a tarot card reader, then I became like more of a psychic, then a medium, then past life, then channeling, you know, quantum work and subconscious reprogramming and fractals and so it just unraveled and unraveled and unraveled and layered and layered and layered. And I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful for not having like, sometimes I see a lot of people that come out of religious upbringings with very restrictive like views of self and very limiting views of what they can and can't do, and like stopping themselves from expressing themselves in their own way because of fear of how judged they're going to be. And for me, like that's one of the lowest vibrations possible, because it's fear and shame. And it's like, I just don't think that resonates in the way that this is trying to create the new thing. So I think this new connection with Christ that a lot of spiritual people are now going into, again, I think it's a good thing. And I think it's taken a lot of people out of where they might have been, influenced by lower vibrational frequencies, by being an unopened vessel without the appropriate training or knowledge.
Right.
And so people are finding like their own light within, which again is always going to be a good thing. But I just think it's really important to remember, like, there's no need to judge or shame anybody else for doing their own way of doing it, as long as they're not hurting anybody else.
Yep. And that's what I'm going to circle that right there. That is a big old nugget. Like, even me thinking about it, I'm like, I wouldn't even think about doing that because it's not in my resonant field.
Exactly.
Like, nah, that's a giveaway of my power and hurting someone else who's standing in theirs, So I do say that for the highest vibrational frequency of what is in mine, if I have no intent to hurt anybody else, I have the biggest intent to be happy and excited about myself.
Exactly.
And if I can co-create with somebody like you, and I love working with you, that's very heart-to-heart based. I can feel it in 2 seconds. We work very well together. It's very flowy, and I know it's coming out of love. That's the resonance that I want to continue to work with, then I'm going to keep shooting in that space, right?
Exactly.
And that's with respect with everybody who's watching this. All of your perspectives are valid to you, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the Christ consciousness coming into play, because I do see it a lot. And it does feel like it's shifting people out of these parameters of what would have been stuck in that fractalization for a long time. Right. So I appreciate that step phase, and I'm glad that people are working with that, and whatever that means to them. Christ to me is just, and the word doesn't even hit me. I'm like, like, it doesn't resonate in my body. But what I would have to say in appreciation for that was the teaching of being sovereign in your own heaven, in your own body. Perceiving how you perceive, which would be your heart connected to whatever type of source you want to talk about.
Yeah, 100%. And I always seen that connection between like I can't remember, the Holy Spirit, God and Son and Jesus, as like the mind, body and soul, the connection between the human vessel, the mental mind and the consciousness, the emotional body, and spiritual self, the soul, the spark of itself, and that divine connection, the Holy Trinity, that then connects us to source energy. I always translate it very similar, and that's the thing. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think my qualm is the loss of autonomy in religious teaching. So not when it's connected with Christ consciousness, I think that's wonderful, but I think when it's connected with the religious teaching where you're not powerful, that's what gets me. I don't like it when that preaching and that energy is taught that you can't possibly ever be that powerful. You can never be on that level. And I understand that there's no way we can encapsulate all of source energy in a human body, because we're in a human body, so we ain't going to be able to encapsulate all that 100%. So there's no way we could put all of God in a human, and I get that. But in the same way, Jesus was a fractal energy of God, a connection, the Son of God. We are all resonance from that energy. We all come from source energy. Again, it's not a one-way street. So we can give information back up to God to teach, to learn, but we can also receive energy. We can also connect to that energy, tap into the frequency, tap into that resonance. And the miracles, again, that Jesus performed, in my opinion, were what we are capable as humans, what the power we have. And the whole concept of only God and only Jesus can save you, I don't agree. I think you can do this yourself. I think the point is you're meant to do it yourself. That's the point. You're not meant to give your power away to some being, to something else, to someone else. You are meant to feel an empowered, connected being living a human experience, and remember the divine sovereign being that you are, and that what comes with that, the capabilities, the skills, the gifts, the magical things that make your soul yours. And I think maybe that's where I have a big difference with the religious teaching, is because I don't feel anyone should take your power away from you, and your perception of that power either,
Yeah.
It's a big thing for me.
Yep. I want to circle that. That's a really big thing for me too. It's you're not connected to an outside source. And this is another piece that I'm going to just bring to the table to say that following somebody, an outside source, that hierarchy piece, which is still running through these religious facets, and is not the overall game. It's, I'm gonna be embodied with myself, follow myself. Even if you're watching this right now, like, this is not to follow us, it's for you to own your own power.
Remember, like, step into that remembrance of yourself. That's always what, when people ask me, like, what do you do? And I'm like, I love to spark people the remembrance of their own power, stepping back into your true self. Like, one of my best workshops ever was the transformation to your true self. I don't teach anything, I don't heal anything. I ignite the spark for you to choose to remember, to choose to heal. That's it. I'm just a little seed planter going around throwing seeds and shit. It's up to you whether you water it, you know? Like, it's not my job to go around watering everybody's garden. It's my job to throw through seeds. And then it's their job, your job, to maintain your own inner growth, you know? And that's why, again, the autonomy piece, giving it away, that it calms me a little bit. And the issue with, like, your higher self, like, why could we not have a higher self? Why would that be an issue to have power? Why would connecting your body in a way connected to source be an issue? Why would meditating, which is the most, a friend said to me today, religion, prayer is you speaking to God. Meditation is God speaking back. So why would that ever be classed as something that would be satanic when it's the messenger realm for the divine? You know, it's like, in my opinion, these things were classed as that so that they'd be shut down, and so that you would not have that easier access to the remembrance of your power. Because if you are not doing them things, it's less likely that you're going to be connecting in with your true self. If plant medicine's a sin, if yoga's a sin, if meditating's a sin, if claiming your own power is a sin, if using your own magic is a sin, and if all these things make you divine are sins, then what actually are you doing other than living in conformity and fear?
Totally. Conformity, control, all of those pieces running through the facet of it. And, you know, I'm going to say that now because everything that you stated there, like, I've seen it's even flared up my face. Like, that is satanic. That makes you a cult leader. I'm like, because I'm talking to myself. That's all it is.
Say what?
I'm resonating in myself and, you know, whatever I believe in and how I structure it for myself, you know? And I want to just ask everybody this: how much are you giving your power away in little packets?
Yeah.
You know, instead of owning it in yourself and owning your own power, your own magic, your own essence, who you are as a sovereign being. And it could be anything, like, you know, it could be a tiny little, like, thing that you go into the grocery store and you're like, someone walks by and they kind of question you on something and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give them an answer. You know, you don't have to do anything, right? You don't have to give your energy, your power away to anything. And I feel that's where the guilt and the shame can pop up, because, like, you feel guilty for either being direct or saying no or not saying anything, where you don't have to do any of that. That's where you can own yourself and be like, I don't have to interact with any frequencies, energies, or communicate with anybody who doesn't feel like it's in my resonance.
Yeah. And you don't have to justify anything. And I think that's really important, you know. I get anxiety even having conversations like this, because I really don't ever intend to be disrespectful, and I don't ever intend to hurt other people's opinions or, like, you know, make them triggered. It's never my intention, but I have to authentically own my own. And I remember having a debate with someone who used to be way open to, like, ETs and, you know, everything that was going on in the deep south, in the deep state, sorry, not the deep south, but all the stuff going on over there, you know. Don't know where my brain went there. Baby brain, I'll blame it on that. Yeah, all the stuff going on in the world in that aspect, like, fully open. We had great conversations, and then they converted into Catholicism, no issue there. But then they've become a completely different person, and the shame and judgment I received from them, the renunciation was the right word, of all the stuff that we used to talk about and connect about. And we had this big debate, and, you know, I was basically told, if I don't believe in Jesus Christ as my only one and true, only Lord and Saviour, then I'm going to hell. And I was like, well, if I was to say that, I'd be lying. So would you rather me say that then I'll get into heaven because I've said it, but I don't believe it, so I'm saying it out of fear? That's one option. Or would you rather me authentically own what I feel is my truth and live by that, instead of living in a false way to please your narrative? Because I'll say it if it makes you happier, if it makes you feel better, but it's not true. It doesn't resonate. That's not my truth. That's not what I truly, if you get to my core being, that's not what I truly connect with. Absolutely. So I would be saying it just to tick a box on a human level, you know, and that's something I think a lot of us are just taught to tick these boxes from childhood and as experiences, and we don't ever question, maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe, again, this is not renouncing anything to do with religion or Christ. If you really connect with that, it's when there is gaps, when there is questions, when there is searching for more. And like, how many times I have connected with my spirit guides, with multiple different angels, with animals, with past loved ones, with all these different beings that in their perception would be classed as a satanic experience, yet I've been on my knees crying in gratitude for this beautiful experience that I've just had, and the love that I felt, the pure divine love, that's not even, the word love don't even justify it, because it's not even a human experience, and yeah, no words. And so it's like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's a lower frequency. You can't mimic these emotions. You can't falsify that feeling, and I think that's something to question. There is that way to perceive it. There is other ways to perceive it. But it's finding your way to perceive it. And
exactly. And what it means to you. And, you don't have to people please or put it in a box for them if you don't believe it either. That's my perspective. That's just an absolute no. And that's not to disrespect what you're saying. Usually in my verbiage, I'm like, hey, I really appreciate your perspective. And I know that what it means to you. And I appreciate that. That's just not where I'm at. That's not how I perceive things.
Yeah.
I have been shamed, criticized, guilted for talking to trees. Okay.
Love the trees.
Exactly. For being my little kid essence, for being excited of talking to plants, for connecting to spirit, for talking to beings. Okay. I've been shamed for like using the word alignment and what that means to me. And the thing is with that is me. That is my true essence. That's who I am. I love my connection to all these things, facets, earth, how I view and see fractals, spirits, beings. I love myself so much in that way. And to have that piece like bump up, bump up, bump up. Now it's like gratitude for that. And also this is me. And guess what? You don't have to watch me. You don't have to view me. You don't have to be friends with me. Take whatever it is you want to take, and then, have your own perspective about it. Just don't fit me into your box. And that's where I make that a big thing. Like, you can have your perspective. Don't put that point of view on me in perceiving that that's how I am, because you don't know how I am. I am who I am as I am. And that's it.
Exactly. Right? So true. So true. And, I could literally spend so long talking about this concept, because so many things you said there are just so bang on. And like, we've looped that a little bit, so like myself, I was just going to say something I've always said, there is no disrespect there, and there is no judgment there. And it's finding that, for me, I am totally cool living in this new earth with me believing my source and universal energy. You believe in God, and you believe in Allah, and you believe in, Judaism and Buddhism and, Sikhism and all these other different facets. Like, I personally don't have issues with that. What I have issues is the political connections that brings sometimes, and the hatred and that's the thing. It's been so humanized that it has become a weapon of control and a weapon of manipulation. And I think this is where there's like, shit needs a little shift a little bit, even like today, how ironic that we've made this today. This is so funny. It's just, and the new Pope has just been selected, like on my way over here. I was driving over here and the fucking radio was going, ooh, the white smoke's just changed white. The new Pope's been selected. And I was like, oh, I turned it off because I was like, I can't think about this right now. I've got to go do my video. But I didn't even connect the two together. I literally just did it in that moment where I was like, oh my God, shouldn't have said that last week. But it is the connection between, and that is appropriately put at that time, the two worlds of the human. This is being brought into the human world because religion is being brought up for us all to question in good and bad ways. In, does this fit to me? Does this work for me? And a dear friend that was brought up very religious and then came away from it and then went back into it through her relationship. And I have no problem with that. She does a beautiful prayer before they eat. They don't eat meat on Fridays. Like, I am so respectful, and I actually try not to like use them slang words like, oh my God, and stuff like that, because I don't want to intentionally seem disrespectful. For me, it's just a subconscious thing. So I work on that. And she actually said to me one time, you make me question what I'm taught, because I am taught that what you do is bad, yet you are one of the nicest and kindest loving people I know. And I found that really interesting. And again, another question I have for some religion, not all, and some aspects to it, again, not all, is sometimes it feels that women are less able to access the knowledge and be in a position of powerful knowledge, and more just told to do things without understanding why. Because when I would question, like, why she would believe these things, there wasn't really a reason. It was more just because she had been told by either a dad figure or an uncle or a partner. And so again, it just rose me to question, as someone that is very independently minded and, you know, likes to question and think and go deep, like, how much is this a true belief thing, a true connection thing, and how much is it a programming?
Exactly. That is another golden nugget right there. Questioning is awareness. Is this something that was told to me, or is it something that I actually believe?
Yeah.
A lot of times, at least for me, that I know, like, when I have a questioning moment, my body's like, that's not real for me, right? And it knows already in its resonance, like, that is not a thing for me. And it takes me back to the memory where that imprint came from, whether it was a movie, whether it was a person, whether it was abuse, whatever the case is. It takes me to that very moment. It questions it, and it's like, yeah, no. So how do I want to repattern that for myself? A lot of these programs that you've been taught to believe through everything, society, how our humanity works, politics, government, all these facets. So I do encourage everybody on here, if something feels a little bit off, question it. Question yourself. Does that feel right to you? Does that feel appropriate? Because a lot of times it's your body going, and your soul's like, hey, so this might be limiting to our expansion.
just a little bit, you know, and it's so true. And I think, you know, one of the, I seem to get an itchy neck. One of the biggest things that kind of gets me about the restriction of it, because I literally felt myself like, need to expand, and I was like, okay, get bigger. I need to get bigger energy, because I feel like squished by it, you know. And I think another aspect of this is, as a woman in society, don't get me wrong, we could go there all day, there's multiple layers going on, but let's specifically look at religion. Let's look at the concept, the stories in religion. You know, you've got Mary Magdalene, and then you've got the other women, and the women that are portrayed to be more sinners, you know, and the image of women that's portrayed as. And then let's take it back to a video we did a couple of weeks ago about the sacral chakra. And this is something me and you have been talking about, you know, something, an exciting idea we want to bring forward that's coming up in the next few weeks as well, the ideas. So yeah, it's all connected. But I always call her the wild woman within. That's my little wild woman. And it's like, you know, we have an inner child, little kid within us. We have an inner teen that's like, F everybody, fuck that. You know, we have this little teen that's wild in there. We have the current version, the adult, the functioning adult that's mum mode, that, you know, does all them things in my version. And then we have the higher self. And then, in my opinion, we have what I call the sacral self, the wild woman. And she is like the divine empress, the receptive energy, the creator, the little firefly that's dancing in the wild around the campfire, you know, through the woods. Because let's face it, every woman has one of them. I don't care what you want to say, she's in there. You might have just locked her away down a boarded box. She exists. Even if you choose to not let her exist, she's there, you know. And I think, in my opinion, religion has a fantastic way of bolting that door shut for that little wild woman, because she is viewed as a sinner. Viewed, whatever the word is. And that energy, in my opinion, is one of the closest energies to source. Sacral energy, that powerful, sensual, creative, passionate, divine, pure energy.
Exactly.
We're working with magic there, you know. And for them, in my opinion, to control and to maintain control and balance, they had to suppress a very powerful life force within women and men. But a lot in women, you know, because they're the life bringers. They are the portals between life and death, between the realms of the earth. They are literally bringers of life. And yet somehow that connection has managed to even still be distorted with that process. And so, yeah, I feel that's a massive facet of religion. And another one that makes me feel a bit unresonant towards it is the suppression of that wild woman within. Now, I believe she deserves a place at the table just as much as the inner child, just as much as the higher self, and just as much as the version of you now, you know, and all the others. But societally, we're not really allowed to do that. And if you are then for example, then you don't let it out in society, obviously, but then you go to your own home and you're in your own expression of self, and then you let it out. But if you are following a conformative religious perspective that tells you that that is sinful and shameful, and that you are being watched 24/7, and anything you ever do is reported back to and you're going to be punished for it, then you are never going to access that frequency. You are never going to feel safe in your body to allow that frequency to exist there, and to even get to know it, to even recognize it, to even, tap into that vibration. And this is in no way talking about anything lower frequency, anything negative or dark or demons. This is your own desires, your own connection, your own passion, your own creativity, your own power. And that's the problem, because power was seen as a threat, and so it was diluted.
For sure.
And I think it's a big part of the push to limit ourselves.
It was a cute little chastity belt.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly.
My perspective, and I call her the warrior rainbow goddess. my little wild woman.
Love that.
She's very intense, brash, and also one of the most gorgeous aspects of myself. I love her so much, and she will take me back into the memory. Like, remember the beginning of humanity? Like, women actually really embrace this, right? And as soon as there was a hint of control or religious piece running through there, they knew that power was very strong, and that was the chastity belt right there, you know, that suppression piece. And I feel like we're remembering it, and I also feel like more and more so that piece needs to be removed.
100%. What a fantastic word to use there. That's like bang on, because it is simply, in my opinion, the chastity belt to source, to God. So no matter how many scriptures you want to read, if you do not feel divinely empowered as a goddess in your own right, or God, whatever you are, whatever gender we are talking to at the moment, you are missing such a key aspect of it, because you are told that in itself is its biggest sin. You can't mimic God, you can't. But we're not mimicking, we're a part of, we are representing. That's, in my opinion, it's a represent. When you are in that full expression, I mean, you see it when you see someone walk down the street and they are flowing in their essence and they are divinely glowing. That does not repulse you and think it's satanic and lower frequency. That's something that you like, wow, it's magnetizing, it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's connected, it's divine, and it's love. And that's the point. Like, when we get connected into that version of self, it is unstoppable. I mean, you'll still have days where you're up and down, but that energy in itself is so powerful. Sorry.
Your creation. In fact, there's no words for that type of energy. And when you embody that piece, I feel like as those ripples are being made, and if there is religious perspectives to it, it gets taken as a sinner, dark, because they don't know how to even hit that. They don't know it within self. So they embrace that. They're like, oh man, she must be some da 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 da. When it's meant to break the chastity belt off, so you can experience it yourself.
100%. And yeah, so many layers to that. I feel like I could spend all years talking about that. Could go over here, could go over there, could go over here. You know, like a whole thing all going on. But yeah, it's definitely been a whole thing. And I think, in my area where I've grown up in, it's very survival instincts, and you see a lot of trauma on the surface. And, I were a victim to that trauma for some time of my own life. But yet, on a physical level, obviously, I've been with my partner since I was 11, 12, we met. So we've been together a long time. So I don't have that like physical shame that a lot of women have had to carry because of their own releasing of trauma in different ways. And I am so kind of try to be a safe place for women that's like, please let that go, because it is a program that has been pushed upon many women, especially in my generation of women, and under the guise of the feminist agenda, which that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other topic, you guys. And also, this is of all genders. Everybody's inclusive in here. We're just working with that particular brash feminine energy that is very wild, that's true to its nature.
Yeah, because you're so bang on there. Men have the wild man, the wild woman. Men have a sacral chakra. It's not like they don't have that portal of energy. I suppose it's just, in my opinion, I mean, even also, I have a dear friend that they're both a beautiful lesbian couple, and one of them is way more masculine. Clearly, she's got masculine energy in her frequency. That's that's her natural frequency. That's not an act. It's not a hormonal imbalance. It's not, that's just a fact. It's just a simple fact of humanity, and I observe this, and I observe some biological men that have way more feminine energies, that are not sexually gay or anything like that. Like, they're just straight men, but they have way more feminine energy, and this is a fluid thing, because our souls are more fluid than the human body, than the human body is. But however, in my opinion, like, as I've seen, even in their beautiful relationship, you can see where one is taking on more of a masculine dynamic, one is taking on more of a feminine dynamic, regardless of gender. I agree. One is taking on a role, and I think this is kind of the concept of religion that I probably do agree with, and not to the physical sense, but a concept that feminism took away was that family unit, that family dynamic, and women being able to receive and men being able to protect, and in some ways provide. That might not be financially, it might be in sense of like emotional security and a stable place, because a woman is the spiritual protector, and I feel, or a feminine energy is more of a spiritual realm protector, and I feel a masculine energy is more of a physical realm protector. And when they're in harmony with each other, it can be a divine union. And the whole intention was to separate that, to suppress the wild woman, to neutralize the powerful man, masculine, feminine. You know what I'm saying? Same thing. Sure. And to separate that power between the two unions, and I'm really glad you clarified that out, because in my head I know them things that I'm like, I understand that. In a human level, sometimes we need to clarify that out. No way am I talking about simply just men and women. It is definitely a feminine and masculine frequency thing when I'm referring to men and women. Again, I probably should be more correct on the words I'm using there, but definitely it's an energy thing. And like I said, working with my friends, I witness how we have kids 3 weeks apart, our sons, and I witness the same dynamics. We've all gone through the same dynamic shifts in our relationships, in our parenting journeys, and they're two beautiful women, and I'm in obviously a man and a woman relationship, and yet it's the same experience. It's the same learning things, just different human bodies experiencing it. So I'm totally there with you there, and I'm glad we clarified that out as well.
I'm just excited about where this is headed today.
It's been a whole journey.
It was one heck of a journey. To kind of like, I don't even know if I can recap that. There's so many beautiful things that happen. I'm like, going back to the cycle of how many nuggets were in there. Nope, I didn't even fill those space.
I feel the only summary I would say is like, it's the reclaiming the autonomy of self. It's like, in whatever way that looks like to you, whether that's through God, through religion, through any of the other religions, any of spiritual self, any of energy, whatever that looks like to you. It's reclaiming your own autonomy of self. That's how I would like to recap that. That's my little summary.
Thank you very much. I was going to say, for me, the whole recap is sovereignty, owning your own perspective, getting a feel for it. This is your biggest empowerment piece coming back into you, and questioning yourself and deciphering what frequency you want to be at, and where others are placing their vibrational frequencies or perspectives, where you might be falling into that when you don't need to be, right? So giving power away when it can be coming back to you. So owning all of yourself in this space, and perceiving what is right for you. And that's the only thing that I want to come into this is, can you be in true in you? Are you sovereign in you? Are you most powered you, or the most expressed you? Can you be in creation all the time and really move with that in your connection to source, God, whatever it is that you want to fill that into?
So beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah, truly is. And like you say, the only thing I would suggest, like, an activity, a way to do that is to ask questions. In the same way, when you're getting to know a new friend, you're getting to know a new partner, you're getting to know someone, a colleague, you're going to ask them questions, aren't you? You're going to ask them, if something comes up, if it's about religion, if it's about your own belief, it's about how you connect something, you're going to ask them, what do you believe? How do you see that? Why do you think that? Ask yourself them same questions. And that will really allow you to get deeper into your own knowings. And so sometimes you might not have an answer straight away as well. Sometimes the answer may come through discovery. Once you set the question out there, in my opinion, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will bring you the answer through showing you the messages, in itself, your higher self. It'll become clear. So all I would say is start to ask the questions to at least receive some answers.
Right. Open up your system to what questioning might look like, what it might feel like to you, and then surrender and allow. Those are the two words I'm going to work with: surrender and allow. Don't force it. Don't try and search for it. You already have all of that.
Yeah.
So let yourself give yourself those answers, and also let the universe kind of bring those lessons into you as they come.
Yeah, 100%. Beautiful. That feels like a really beautiful place to summarize today, because we definitely took everybody on a roller coaster journey. And again, I really just want to clarify out, these are just our opinions, and sometimes, I get very passionate about my opinion, but that's only because it's mine and I've had my own time to explore that and how I connect with that and what I feel about that. I don't believe anyone should think what I think just because I think it. I think everyone should find their version of truth. And so, again, I do invite you to ask yourself, if today has triggered you, I'm not going to necessarily apologize, because I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to question why it's created an emotional reaction within you, And like I said, I've had to question why this was even brought up to me in the first place, because it was like being thrown at me left, right, and center. And I think I've learned a lot to also disassociate what Christ consciousness means in religion and to redefine it in my terms and connect with that frequency independently in my own terms and my own definition. So I've definitely been doing that and exploring that. So I invite you to find your own truth and do that by not judging others as well.
Right. And I'm just going to reiterate that these are our perspectives. They're ours. And we have, I can only speak for myself. I've taken a lot of time to deep dive to be
Me too.
I'm my sovereign self, to have my own perspective. And, question us too, please.
Yes.
Please. If you don't agree with any of this, that's fantastic. Set in with that with yourself and see where that's resonating or not. You guys, we love you so much, and we want to keep moving into some of these spaces, because I feel like
we do. We definitely do. And this is something I've been questioning for a long, long time. Even down to being at school, we had to choose what to do. And in the last year, 16, I think it is, and I can't remember even that far, but I chose to do ethics and philosophy and explore different types of religion because I was searching for answers then. And so if you're like me, you've been searching for these answers for a while, keep searching, because even now I classify in the spiritual world, whatever, but I'm always questioning, unraveling, deepening my own beliefs and my own connection. So like Z said, question everything, connect with everything, question us, please. I think it would be wrong if you didn't. We're not saviors. We're no cult leaders. We don't want you to just blindly follow and obey. We want you to question. If you have challenges, questions, you want to come on and ask us some questions, that'd be awesome. Please don't be afraid to get involved, and your voice, your opinion is just as valid as us sharing ours. So get involved. And I think next week we'll bring up whatever comes through and the vibes.
Absolutely. And we'll keep moving through it. So thank you, everybody. We love you.
Thank you so much. Take care, Z, and thanks so much for joining us today. Everybody take care. Look after yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.